can't beat it.
No kidding.
Technology will push you whether you want it to or not.
Oh, well, it's changing life.
It'll change the game.
It is. Whether or not you accept it or not. I was talking to somebody. This is when social media really started coming out, and we're talking about the impact of that on business, right?
Right.
And so the story goes, CEO of, I think it was like CarQuest or something, said, we just don't participate in social media. I tell my employees we don't do it.
Wow.
So I know that we have no exposure associated with it. And I'm making that up.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's CarQuest. And so the guy pulls out and types up CarQuest, let's say.
Yeah.
And it comes up 1,000 fees.
Yeah.
So look, there's a conversation going on about you. You can choose to participate in it, or you can ignore and pretend like it doesn't exist.
Wow.
But you can't impact it unless you're participating.
You're being a part of it.
Now, he got lucky. It turns out they had, whoever this was, had sponsored, I don't know, some NASCAR event, had given away, I don't know, 2 tickets. And so the first video he pulls up is somebody getting those tickets and, doing cartwheels and talking about how great the company was. So, hey, how lucky is that? But the point is, technology is occurring. We can choose to participate or not.
Man, you hit it. You hit it with your big sledgehammer that time. If you're not a part of the game. There's people talking about the sheriff's office, and if you're not a part of that, you've got to have. I've got 3 guys that are in charge of my social media.
Sure. 3. I would think you'd have, like, I don't know, an army.
Yeah, they do a great job.
I'm sure.
I've got my chief deputy, one of my lieutenants, and a corporal. They do an outstanding job monitoring our pages, and make sure we're ahead of the game. I tell my team all the time, let's be a part of the narrative.
Okay.
I don't want citizens to create my own narrative. And so therefore we make sure we get the information that's needed for the citizen, and we come back and update and clean it up, because that is the game. Mm-hmm. That is, if you don't do it, the citizen will create their own narrative. Now you're behind the 8 ball.
Oh, and it doesn't even have to be close to true.
That's the thing. It can be all false accusations. Whoa. And then I had to tell my 3 administrators, clean that up. And citizens will start calling and say, hey, Sheriff, have you seen this?
Right.
Because I'm not on social media 24/7, but citizens are. And they'll say, hey, Sheriff, you might want to look at what was just posted on such and such page.
I get a little bit of that myself.
Oh, God. So social media is a beast. You got to be a part of the game.
So let's talk about that a little bit. So sheriff has to be elected, high sheriff in every county, North Carolina.
Yeah.
So you have to go out and you have to seek approval from the voters. Same time, you're charged with being the sheriff.
Yes.
Law enforcement.
Yeah.
Talk about that. That's going to be a strange balance. I mean, I would think that doing a great job will generate always the outcome you want, but part of that's telling people what you're doing.
Yeah.
So just talk about that a little bit, because I mean, I can't imagine the challenge, because I don't think it's a conundrum. But it's got to be a little delicate from time to time.
It is. I wasn't on social media until I became the sheriff.
I understand.
But I understood that this is the way of the world.
Yeah.
And this is the way that you get your name and your information out to young voters, to older voters, to everybody.
Right.
One of the things, and I know sometimes I get asked the question, tell us some of the things you've done since you've been a sheriff. Maybe we've done a lot of great things. And I'm being honest with you, I don't remember them all because I don't look back. I just blaze the trail and we roll it. But social media has been a driving force on what we've been able to accomplish.
Right.
Other sheriffs across the state, they monitor our pages.
Okay.
And I'm not the inventor of a lot of things. However, I share with other sheriffs, like, hey, if it can work for you, use it.
Right.
And that's the thing. If it can work for you in your county out west, take it and run with it. And they'll say, well, man, you didn't cost you anything. One of the programs that I'm extremely proud of is our Are You OK program. Mm-hmm. It's a program where it didn't cost me anything other than a printer.
Right.
And what it does, if your father, mother, I don't know if they're still living, so I'm just saying your father, mother, and if you're living in Philadelphia, it'll prompt. We'll get you information. It'll prompt us to call your father, mother every day.
Okay.
And so then what will happen if there's no response? we'll try to reach out to you. So, hey, we're not
finding your mom, you
right.
dad, whatever.
The third response was it'll automatically send a deputy. Our comms center send a deputy automatically to your home. And I'm telling you, I've shown up and have found seniors laying on the floor. So we've done so many great things.
Sure.
And amongst all of that, you got to try to politic for your job.
Right.
You got to fight for your job 2022. But I can tell you this, Mayor, we've done my team.
Right.
And it's all my team, man. I'm the face of the sheriff's office. I've done so many great things that, man, I'm just proud, man, in 4 years what we've been able to accomplish.
Well, that's a sign of a great man, really, or a great woman.
Yeah.
Is somebody who understands, if I build the team.
Yeah, it's a team.
If I build the team, then that's the winning recipe,
That's it.
really.
That's it. This is not me. I wake up every day from my executive assistant that keeps me on schedule, telling me, Sheriff, make a right, make a left. You forgot this. We're bringing it to you.
We've got a hard stop. Shut up. Let's go.
Let's go. My chief deputies keep my captains, lieutenants, and my guys that's on the ground, my detention staff, my guys that's on the ground, going to these knocking on doors, domestics. You're praying for them every day.
Right.
It is tough.
Right.
I was so consumed initially with being the sheriff and listening to the radio all night long and trying to make sure that I had to put it down because it was consuming me because I couldn't get away from it. So now I'm trying to find, after year number 4, trying to find some peace at trying to push it to the side a little bit because I was so ingrained. It's got to be right for who? The citizens.
That's right.
And now I'm trying to find that happy medium and trying to get away after 5 o'clock and still answering the phone for citizens.
So we call that here the embrace the power and.
I like that.
We can be successful and we can, also have some downtime because the reality is if you don't get it, then your office is not going to function as well either.
Right. That's right.
I mean, I know that it seems a little counterintuitive, probably folks listening, but it's true.
Yeah.
Because you're the spiritual leader,
Right.
you're the physical leader, you're the emotional leader.
Exactly.
You're all those things, and you have to be on point all those times.
Yeah. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Well, you did. I mean, we talked about it. Yeah, it's just an interesting balance, right? And so the impact to you initially was, got to be all things to all people all the time, and 100% on.
And one of the hardest things, Mayor, that I had to understand and learn because this is you don't go to a class trying to figure out how to be the sheriff. You got to get in there and you got to be amongst the people. But I had to learn that I couldn't please everybody.
All right, absolutely.
And that was tough for me because I'm a people person. And I had to learn that everybody that came in my circle wasn't a positive driving force. Mm-hmm. And I had to learn that sometimes negativity was going to come my way and I had to deal with it.
Right.
And negativity was going to come and try to hurt my office and I had to deal with it as a leader. And that was tough for me.
Sure.
Because I wanted to make sure everybody is on the same page. But sometimes no matter how you talk and how you speak or how well you do it, there's always going to be somebody driving against you.
Well, and you put so much time and effort into it too. Right. It becomes very personal.
It is.
It really is. I understand that completely. So I want to talk about how you ended up in law enforcement. I mean, that's got to be a story. I don't think I've ever heard it.
Wow.
I knew you and Sheriff Stone, we were highway patrol together. I mean, I've heard that story, heard you guys talking about it, but I don't know the genesis story.
Wow. Make it short and sweet. I can talk to you all day.
That's okay.
I love letting people know the story.
Yeah.
We got to tell a story more. I knew when I was doing my intern, I wanted to be a social worker. I want to be a school teacher, and I want to drive trucks. Driving trucks is still on my bucket list, by the way.
Okay, all right.
But when I came home from Lenore-Ryan University, I went to Wilson-Feigen. I went to Lenore-Ryan University and played 4 years of college football. I came home. I wanted to do something in my community, which is Wilson. I want to try to impact the community.
Sure.
I said, hey, I want to be a Wilson police officer. I rarely talk about this publicly, but a lot of law enforcement officers know the story. Filled out an application with Wilson Police Department. They said I didn't have any experience. And I'm thinking like, man, I can't get in if somebody don't give me a chance.
That's the constant, right?
Yeah, I was like, that's the whole point while I'm here is to get some experience. I was dejected.
Yeah.
I felt defeated. I was like, man, I'm the guy that can impact Wilson, but
these idiots just don't recognize it.
And they was telling me that, hey, man, I had no experience, and that hurt.
Because how do you get the experience? Well, I'm sorry, you tell us.
You're right, and that's why I give people chances nowadays, because I felt that dejection. I had a highway patrol recruiter come talk to me. I was teaching with Fannie Corbett in Wilson.
Okay.
doing some nonprofit teaching young males how to obtain their GED. So I was a GED instructor.
Okay.
And my job was to recruit and help people.
Yeah.
And Highway Patrol trooper, he saw me one day, well-groomed,
Yeah.
could speak to people. He said, try this. Filled out an application, and the rest was history.
That was probably the better path for you anyway, in terms of achieving where you are today.
Right. I thank God for the Highway Patrol because they gave me a chance.
Yeah.
They treated me like family.
Right.
I learned so much from those men and women of the Highway Patrol. They were great people. I still got a lot of friends. But when I slow it down, they gave me an opportunity to be great.
Sure.
And so I challenge everybody, when you turn people away, you don't know what that driving force is when you turn them away. You don't know what you're entertaining. So my home city that turned me away, the state grabbed me, and they taught me everything I need to know about law enforcement.
Too, and I don't know, but I mean, Highway Patrol has less of a parochial viewpoint, and certainly much larger. And so, if nothing else, it probably expanded your thought and the notion of what the horizon could be.
They did.
Not to say that the Wilson Police Force or Roberson
or
whatever,
but some great guys.
No, of course. And I'm not suggesting others, but I'm just saying from where you were and where you've been able to evolve to, that was probably the best of all steps. I'm still amazed that a social worker ends up being the sheriff. I mean, at the heart.
But it's just some things that I wanted to accomplish. And you're right, at the state level, I was exposed. During the civil unrest and all the things was going on, I was on the mobile field force for several years. I don't know, over 10 years with the Highway Patrol. And that was another thing I was exposed to. And during all the civil unrest and that was going on across America, man, I was looking at those guys on front lines like, man, I've been there when you're shaking in your boots and you see a wave, not just of the civil unrest, but we used to have to work those Halloween parties in Chapel Hill.
Right.
And Greenville.
Right.
And when you look out and you see 30,000 people and it's just 100 of us or 300, you're like, guys, we are outnumbered.
Right.
So I understood, man, and I prayed for those, everybody that was going through all the civil unrest, whether it was law enforcement or the protesters, man, because I was on those front lines and your boots are shaking like, man, you can get a brick thrown at you.
Right.
What's going to happen? Am I going to get home? So I've been there. So yeah, it exposed me to a lot.
So how do we bring folks a little bit closer together? Because we're seeing more and more protests, whether it's Antifa, whether it's, call it the current insurgency on the Capitol, or, and we go through the politics of it all. But what I'm seeing is a greater frequency, and I'm seeing less harmony. And I'm seeing a divide societally along lots of different lines. And so, and it's no different locally. So what are you seeing and how are you addressing that? I mean, you've got a level head, a good head-heart connection, I think.
One of the things, that's two things. One of the things I did at my sheriff's office during the height of so much that was going on, I called all of my staff in.
Right.
I wasn't worried about the implicit bias training.
Sure.
All this stuff.
Sure.
I called them in and said, hey, let's talk.
Right.
And let's talk raw. Don't talk to me as the sheriff.
Right.
What's bothering you? With all what's going on with COVID and civil unrest and police brutality, all these things, what is bothering you? And what I found out was, and my African-American staff and officers, they were real. My white officers, they were real. I learned something from everybody. Like, whoa, I didn't know that was going on.
Right.
And I didn't know you went through this.
Right.
And even as a sheriff, and man, you could see the tension go off their bodies.
Wow.
I did that for the whole staff. It meant a lot to me. How do we fix it? I don't know if we really can, Mayor.
I think it's a process.
It's a process. I always joke to the people that's close to my circle, I joke all the time. I say, you know what? Let's get a bunch of people in the room.
Right.
Sheriff, the mayor, and whoever else.
Sure.
I did learn this from the Highway Patrol. Give somebody standing at the door and give them your cell phone.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing
yeah,
recorded.
yeah.
Nothing recorded.
Well, not only that, it's no distraction either.
No distractions.
Now you're president of the moment.
Yeah. I learned that from one of my captains at the governor's mansion. All eyes on me when I'm conducting a meeting. I do that at the sheriff's office sometimes. Get the sheriff in the room, get the mayor in the room, and whoever else.
Right.
And let's go at it.
Right.
And let's say, and you say, Sheriff, now I didn't like this. And I said, Mayor, I didn't like, and let's just talk. And no distractions.
Yeah.
And let's put it all on the table. Because I've learned this. You can't fool the citizens. And we can't continue fooling citizens. As grown people and leaders, let's talk.
Right.
And let's put it out there. Leave your distractions at the door. And before we leave out of here, let's come to some kind of resolution.
As long as we're communicating.
That's it.
And as long as I have a respect for you.
That's it.
And there's a mutual respect, then
That's it.
even if it's just agree to disagree, we can at least get
That's
to the
okay.
place that we can
That's
find
okay.
some common ground, some direction.
That's right. And so the thing about it, Mayor, I don't know, because maybe I'm not a good guy to ask that question because, man, I have so much love in my heart.
I think that's why you're the right guy.
Yeah, because when I lay down at night, I ask God for new grace and mercy every night. Because as a leader, I failed somewhere during the day.
Sure.
I either saw something that I didn't need to see.
Right.
I either said something that I didn't need to say.
Sure.
Or I either heard something that I didn't need to hear. So every night at 11:59, I ask God for new grace and mercy because as a leader, I need it every day. And I think some of us need to bag up and punt some days.
Right.
And just try to figure it out. I tell my staff, and all I can talk about, May, is how I treat my staff.
No, I understand that and your own perspective, but you know what? I value that. And I think everybody else does too.
That's all I can do. My executive assistant, my chief deputy, we don't see eye to eye some days. I give them the freedom to tell me how they feel. But before we leave at 5 o'clock, if I said it in a tone to my executive assistant that I shouldn't have said it, I ask for forgiveness in front of everybody.
Sure.
As a leader, if we blast somebody in public, we should be big enough to apologize and ask for forgiveness in public. And that's what I do for my team. I'm not going to blast somebody behind closed doors and find out done wrong. I'm going to ask for forgiveness. I don't do that in meetings. I'm like, listen, I thought I was right, but my chief deputy was right, or my executive assistant, or my captain lieutenant was right, and will y'all forgive me because I was wrong? I think when we do more of that as leaders, I think the world will be a better place. We are charged with moving people and leading people.
You know, I believe that, and I'm just so grateful to even hear you say that. You know, the other thing you said that I think is really kind of powerful, maybe even to understand, when we start talking about police brutality now, I don't want to live in a world where there are no police.
Yeah,
ever.
Me neither. Anarchy, that's what you have.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But, you know, you start talking about being on the line, you got 30,000 called drunk kids.
Yeah.
Just, you know, and being scared. Well, a lot of these issues are just folks who are scared.
Yeah.
Who make wrong decisions in a split second that they probably wish they could take back a million times in their life. But, you know, it just is what it is. And it doesn't necessarily make it right.
It doesn't.
But there's a real human component to it. And so is that impacting your ability to recruit guys? Because I'm not sure. It's hard to live in a world where there's no tolerance for mistake. Now, in some of these cases, we're talking about mistakes that have cost lives, and that's.
We start talking about the looting and the killing. Nobody's for that foolishness.
No.
Nobody's for that foolishness. But I share.
I don't know real police brutality either, you know. But a vast majority of these that I see, it looks like a lot of it's just a scared man.
Yeah.
Or woman.
Yeah. Now you're talking about on the law enforcement. Both sides.
Both sides.
You know what I tell people all the time, Mayor?
Law enforcement too. I mean, you know, look, just because I got a gun and a badge.
Don't mean you're scared.
And I kind of hope you are.
Yeah.
A little bit.
If not, you'll be a maniac.
That's right.
And so that is interesting because you can see that. You know, if I'm on the front lines of a mobile field force and an 18-year-old kid, man, he's expressing himself and he's scared, then on the flip side of it, I'm with the mobile field force and they're scared. Yeah. Nobody really wants to be on that street doing either side.
Right.
You know, but what I tell my law enforcement comrades all the time, and wherever I go, when you start talking about the police brutality piece, have law enforcement cross the line, you bet your bottom dollar.
No doubt about it.
have citizens assassinated law enforcement shooting, sitting in cars, you bet your bottom dollar they have. So just going back to what you said, there's two levels of wrongness and neither one of them are right.
Right.
And so that's the conversation we have. Me and my staff, we talked to some Tarboro High football players.
Okay.
And we invited them into our office. Some young black males, we invited them in just to rap. And they was like, man, you guys are regular people. And we were laughing, we were cutting up. I had my whole staff, we was laughing, just about 8 of them.
Right.
And they said, man, if we could have this conversation of young kids not knowing how law enforcement works, if we could have this at a football practice,
Right.
imagine where this is. But guess what? That's where we fail because we never thought about that. We never thought about law enforcement going out to a football practice where young men are to talk about the community and law enforcement.
I'm embarrassed to tell you, I'm not sure I could have come up with that.
Right, and we couldn't
2
either.
years, you know?
We couldn't either, and that's what the young athletes said. They said, Sheriff, they're not going to come to you like we did.
Right.
Can y'all come to a football practice? I looked at my team like, man,
Sure.
this is what a 16 or 17 year old said, and they understood. They was like, what happens when y'all stop? They were asking the right questions, and all law enforcement are not bad people. It's some intelligent law enforcement. They on the grind every day. I think we need to thank them for doing their jobs every day. It is a tough job. You go back and you're talking about recruiting and retaining. I sell who I am right now. I sell Clee Atkinson and the sheriff's office. Right. It is tough to recruit. Nobody's really knocking down doors to become a law enforcement officer. So it is tough. So we've been able to kind of maintain, even with low wages, man, we sell that we're going to be one of the top-notch agencies in the East.
Right. And of course, that provides opportunity for folks. But, you know, I remember playing cops and robbers as a kid, right?
Right,
you know,
right.
I don't see kids doing that much anymore, first of all.
Right.
But it just in this age of a lot of criticism around law enforcement, it just seems like that would make your job of recruitment even more difficult. Yeah. And it's hard enough as it is.
It's tough.
In a perfect world.
It's tough, but we still have been able to get some good recruits.
Sure.
And I tell each and every one of my staff, you guys are the recruiter, because they get on me all the time and say, Sheriff, we need a recruiter. We need a recruiter. I say, you are the recruiter. When every time you knock on somebody's door, when every time a citizen call us, we are on display.
Yeah.
So every time we go to somebody's door, got to get a cat or break up a domestic, you are the recruiter with how you talk to people, how you speak to people, how you respond to people. And people don't realize it, Mayor, but talking is a skill. Yeah. And so one thing that we've got to understand, we equip everything around our duty belt and we got a nice shiny badge, but if you don't know how to respond to people and you don't know how to they call it de-escalation.
Right, okay.
But my grandfather, who was a preacher, said, you just got to know how to learn and listen to folk. And so that's how I treat it. A lot of times when people talking to me, a lot of times when people call and complain to me as the sheriff, I don't say a word, I just listen. And they don't want to talk to the captain, the chief deputy, lieutenants. They want to talk to the sheriff, and I listen. And they say, Sheriff, are you there? Yes, ma'am. I'm still here. Yeah. But you hadn't said anything because I'm listening. Right. And I'm listening with everything you're saying. I think when we get to that point, everybody can't talk. Right. Everybody can't bring the mayor ego and the sheriff ego to the table. Let's just listen to one another and say, you know what, Mayor, you were exactly right the whole time. And I need to be able to say it in front of my constituents. Sure. And I need to be able to say, man, I threw you under the bus, Mayor or chief or sheriff. Yeah. I threw you under the bus.
Yeah. I made a mistake.
Yeah, but in front of everybody and in front of all these cameras, will you forgive me? Right. That's leadership.
That's power. That's power.
That's leadership.
I know. That's power.
Yeah, it is.
It's counterintuitive, you know, in terms of the way the world looks at it. But it's real power there.
It is. I'm excited, man. Yeah. Every time I think about my team and people say, man, you're always talking about the sheriff's office. That's all I know.
Well, first of all, we're all salespeople, right? Yeah. So that's what you're talking about. Everybody's got to be a recruiter. Yeah. We got to be selling our stuff, our program, what we think is right. Right. And part of that's listening, right? So I need to understand what product it is that you want. Right. Right. Which is a big part of that. Right. So in summary, what can I do? What can the mayor of City of Rocky Mount do to help you? Because, you know, you're doing a fantastic job. I mean, I think that, you know, a big part of our population's in Edgecombe County. But not only that, I think that we're really a larger community in terms of the counties that surround this community. And so, you know, what happens, maybe in the old days, what happened on the other side of the county in Canada, I thought you Pitt County, but
no,
anyway,
it's Edgecombe.
It's just
And you said it right.
Yeah.
You said it right.
I'm from the area, right?
You said it right.
It might be in Canada, it would never have an impact on me, but that's just not the way of the world anymore. I mean, we got a car, we can travel. Hell, I could be in New York tonight.
Right.
Exactly
right.
What can I do to help you? How do we support you in your role to make you more effective and able to serve our community in the best and highest way possible?
Mayor, you're right. Well, we've got to understand whether it's Nash, the city of Rocky Mount, or Edgecombe County, trouble will soon knock on your door and ain't nothing you can do about it.
That's right.
I just say continue the partnerships. When we fail to partner, whether it be City of Rocky Mount, Edgecombe Sheriff's Office, or Nash County Sheriff's Office, when we fail to partner, we fail the citizens.
Right.
All I can request when we start talking about support is make that partnership as strong as ever. Because as an elected official, I'll get the calls. The chief will get the calls. The other sheriffs will get the calls. And I want to be able to honestly say that, hey, man, our partnership is strong.
Right.
Because they deserve everything, the citizens. Whenever citizens call, they are our customers. Mm-hmm. They're calling because they have an issue. So, and I try to train my people, don't leave there without trying to resolve the issue because they're calling for a reason.
That's right.
So when you start talking about what can you do as a mayor, just to support and the partnership, I've got some good staff. A lot of our services in Rocky Mount.
Sure.
What people don't realize, a lot of our paper service. As a sheriff, I'm responsible for getting out every paper in Edgecombe County.
Right.
And a large part of that population is the city of Rocky Mount. So that's why you see a lot of deputies in Rocky Mount. Why? Because a lot of our paper service
I get it.
is in the city of Rocky Mount. So that's why the movement is strong.
About 40-45% of the entire population of Edgecombe County is in Rocky Mount.
That's right.
So
it's and that's why at the end of the day, we try to make sure we're just as professional from the east side of Rocky Mount all the way past Canada and Speed.
Right.
We're just trying to cover ground, but support, partnershiping, communication.
Yeah.
That is it. Other than that, we're going to fight and we're going to shine.
Man, I thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Having a good time. I really appreciate you. I know we was trying to get together before December, but I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah,
it clears my mind.
Absolutely. Love you, man.
Love you too. Appreciate you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Appreciate you.
Hi, this is Mayor Sandy Roberson. I'd like to take a moment to thank the sponsors of the Mayor's Brief. Tharrington's Auto Works and Collision Center, Rocky Mount Radiator, and Davenport Auto Park. I am grateful to each of them for their support of this program.